All right, let's talk about one of the most dreaded parts of any research project, writing the introduction. If you've ever found yourself just stuck on that first page, well, stick around. We're about to break down a framework that can turn that blank page into a powerful launch pad for your entire paper.
Oh, we've all been there, right? You're staring at that blinking cursor on a totally blank page, and you can just feel the weight of the entire paper ahead of you. It can be completely paralyzing. You've got all this great research, you've got your ideas, but just getting those first few words down, it feels like climbing a mountain.
But you have to start somewhere. And every great paper, every dissertation, every single article, it all begins with the introduction. Now, this is way more than just a formality. It's the front door to your entire argument. It sets the stage for everything that's about to follow. And if you get it right, your reader is totally hooked. But if you get it wrong, you might lose them before you even get to the good stuff.
And hey, if you find it really, really difficult, you're definitely not alone. For most people, it's the hardest part to write because you're trying to do so much at once. Summarize, give context, be persuasive. But what if I told you there was kind of a formula for it? Okay, so let's really dive into this. Why is the introduction so important? Well, because it's your first impression. It's your one and only chance to convince someone that your research is actually worth their time.
There's this great quote from a scholar, A.M. Wilkinson, who put it perfectly. The intro's job is to give readers the background info. In other words, you're building a framework, right? You're showing your reader exactly where your piece of the puzzle fits into the bigger picture of what's already out there.
So, a really great intro is actually juggling four big jobs all at the same time. First, it has to grab the reader's interest. Second, it has to clearly lay out the problem you're tackling. Third, you got to show where your work fits into the bigger scholarly conversation. And finally, you have to explain why it all matters and who's going to benefit from this new knowledge. So, to nail that first job, creating interest, you need something that writers call a narrative hook. This is your opening. It's that very first sentence, and its only job is to make the reader think, huh, tell me more. It could be a shocking statistic, a really thought-provoking question, you name it. I absolutely love this metaphor for how it works. Think about it. A bad intro just throws the reader, the barrel, right into the freezing cold water at the bottom of the well. It's jarring. But a great intro, it slowly lowers them in, letting them get used to the ideas and the context. That narrative hook, that's the first gentle turn of the crank. Okay, so how do we actually build this thing? How do you write that perfect introduction? Well, there's a fantastic template for it, kind of a secret weapon for academic writers. It's called the deficiencies model. So, what is it? At its core, the deficiencies model is a really simple but super powerful roadmap. It helps you build a strong case for your study by first pointing out a specific gap, a deficiency in what's already been researched. And then you position your work as the thing that's going to fill that gap. And it all flows in these four simple steps. First, you state the big picture research problem. Second, you give a quick summary of what other researchers have already said about it. Third, and this is key, you pinpoint exactly what's missing from that conversation. And fourth, you wrap it up by explaining why filling that gap is so important and for who. And what's so cool about this model is that it's incredibly flexible. It doesn't matter if your study is quantitative, testing theories and crunching numbers, or qualitative, where you're exploring a phenomenon that we don't know much about. The basic logic of, here's a gap and I'm going to fill it, works for both. Okay, theory is one thing, but let's see how this model looks in the wild. We're going to break down an introduction from a real study on teen smoking just to see how these four parts click together. So, step one, state the problem. Now, notice how clever this is. They don't just say teen smoking is a problem. No, they create tension, a little paradox. Adult smoking is going down, but teen smoking is going up. Right away, you're hooked. You're thinking, wow, why is that happening? It frames the issue as this urgent puzzle that needs solving. All right, step two, what does the existing literature say? Now check this out. They don't just list every study ever published. That would be so boring. Instead, they group all the previous research into four main topics. This is such a power move. It shows they know their stuff, and it perfectly sets the stage for what's about to come next, what's missing. And boom, here it is, step three, the big pivot. After telling us everything we do know, they point out exactly what we don't. They say, yeah, we've looked at social context, but almost no one has looked specifically at the high school environment. That right there, that's the deficiency. That's the hole in the research that their study is going to fill. And finally, step 4. They answer the so what question. Why does filling this gap even matter? Well, they tell us exactly who will benefit researchers, teachers, administrators, and how this new information is going to help them. It gives the whole study a crystal clear purpose. Okay, now let's pull back and look at the whole thing put together. You can literally see the flow, can't you? It starts broad with a general topic. Then it narrows down to what the literature says. Then you see that magic phrase, minimal research attention, signaling the gap. And it wraps up by saying, here's why this is important for these specific people. It's like a funnel, guiding the reader from a huge problem down to a very specific and compelling solution. So, what does all of this mean for you sitting there with that blank page? It means you have a roadmap. You don't have to invent the structure of an introduction out of thin air. You can follow this proven model to build a powerful case for your own research. So here it is. Here's your checklist for success. Start with that awesome narrative hook. Then just walk through the 4 steps of the deficiencies model: the problem, the literature, the deficiency, and the importance. If you hit every single one of these points, I promise you, you're going to have a killer introduction. Because in the end, that's the one question your introduction absolutely has to answer. It forces you to think about your work not as just another paper, but as a really important piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. So, what piece are you adding?